Hello, everyone. My name is Jorge Molina, and welcome to this year's 2020, our 10th edition of FIG in LA, which now is called the Guadalajara Film Festival in Los Angeles. Thank you, first of all, to our supporting organizations. The festival's new mission is to show the best of Latin American cinema and open doors to emerging Latinx creators with the intention to cultivate a borderless film industry. Today, I'm here to chat with the filmmakers of our Latinx Emerging Talent Short Film Selection. Say hi, everyone. Here with us today, we have Emil Gallardo, the director of 1, 2, 3, All Eyes on Me.
Hey, how's it going?
We have Victor Dueñas, the director of Bibi.
Hello, everyone.
Stephanie Adams Santos, writer of La Gloria. Kathryn Boyd-Batstone, director for Rosa. Hi. Carolina Cortella, director of LA Queens.
Hi.
And Katie Dávila, director of Please Hold.
Hello.
Hi, we're so happy to have you, all of you guys. So I am going to start with 1, 2, 3, All Eyes on Me and Emil. Hi, Emil. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Of course. So I want to start with how much in this film, how did you decide how much to show versus how much to leave it to the assumption and ambiguity of the audiences? There's a lot of play of tension and kind of what we are able to see. And how did you decide on what aspects of this kind of very serious topic to directly address?
Yeah, no, that's a great question, and one we kind of decided really early on. So I think for me, it started with the intention of why we made 1, 2, 3, All Eyes on Me. And the reason was we wanted to bring the audience into the classroom and help them kind of cultivate a deeper emotional understanding of what it would be like to be in one of these situations. And that was our goal. Our goal was never to make the film gratuitous or exploitative. It was really to create empathy for the people that have been in these situations. So we felt like to do that, we could kind of lead the audience to a point, but we didn't need to show everything. So it kind of set pretty clear boundaries for us in terms of what to show and what not to show. And when I point out to people that there's actually no violence that's depicted in the film, you don't see a single person get hurt, you don't see any blood or anything like that, people are often surprised. And I think it just speaks to like how much you're imagining while watching it without us having to show it.
Yeah, no, that was my experience kind of watching it. And I'm also very curious what the conversations that you had with the actors, both with, these group of children and how to put them in this emotional space, but also the conversations you had with the teacher, who has to like guide them through all of this.
Yeah, so our approach, again, from the very beginning, all the way, like starting with casting for the entire cast, was to make the entire script available and then have a lot of conversations. And we did the same thing with the crew, honestly. So we really wanted everybody involved. So speaking to the kids specifically, we made the entire script available. And then I had the parents, any parents that were interested in having their children audition, I had them read the script in its entirety. Then if they were comfortable, then read it with their child, discuss it with them, then bring them into the audition. And so we wanted everybody to know like what we were making and why. And then my process is very collaborative. So whether it was with Pharrell, who plays the teacher, or the children, I talk to them. I mean, sadly, 100% of the kids, all 20 of them, have been in lockdown drills multiple times, some as often as every 2 months. And so before we shot anything, I was asking them, like, what does this feel like? What are some of the things that you've seen? What are you feeling in these situations? And so we were able to take all those details and work them into the script and then eventually into what we shot.
Great. Well, it all shows, and great job. Congratulations again for being here. If people want to find more about the film or follow the steps or where it's going, where can they follow you or the project?
Yeah, so we have a lot more coming up. The best two places would be my website, waterlightfilms.com, or on Instagram at @waterlight.
Great. Well, thank you so much again.
Yeah, thank you.
I want to move to Victor and Bibi. Hi, Victor. Welcome.
Hello, Jorge. Thank you so much for having us, moderating this.
Yeah, no, happy to have you here. So this short feels like an incredibly personal story. It feels so emotionally grounded. I'm curious, what was the inspiration behind it? Was it, is it based on something? Is it, what was kind of, the origin of this lovely story?
Yeah, you know, my partner and co-writer of the project, when he was a little kid, he had a very difficult time verbalizing and speaking. And so his dad, who was an educator, said to him, if you can't speak it, write it. So from that point on, J.M. Longoria, my partner and co-writer, had this amazing relationship where he would write letters with his dad. From the age of 4 onward, he would leave letters for his dad that would start simply with, "Hi, Dad," leave it in his office or his nightstand. And the dad would reply, "Hey, son," and put in his teddy bear. And for the next 12 to 14 years, they developed this relationship based on letters. And when he told me about this, that this is how he basically developed a lot of his, you know, the deeper relationship that he had with his dad, a lot of the deeper moments that he would confront were basically discussed through letters, not necessarily in person all the time. I told him, I'm like, that's not unique. That's an amazing experience that you had with your dad. And, you know, speaking of Emil's movie, which I absolutely love, one of the first big conversations that he had through letters was Columbine. And so he didn't want to go to school because he felt unsafe. And so he wrote a letter to his dad saying, "Hey, I don't want to go to school." And so that, along with issues of puberty, coming out, you know, all those things were discussed in letters. And so we talked about creating a movie where the focus wasn't between 2 men who were actually having a conversation face to face, but that the deeper conversations were coming through these letters. Just to sort of show showing, you know, all adults, but specifically Latino males, that if it's too difficult to say something face to face, there's always another way of doing that. And that writing a letter to someone and having them just sit with the information and then, you know, having that person respond could be a different way. And, you know, he fortunately had a really great experience with his dad when he came out. In the movie, that wasn't necessarily the case, but, you know, we had to develop some kind of conflict. So that's
no, totally. No, and one of the things that did stick out to me was, you know, showing emotional vulnerability between 2 males,
Exactly.
which we don't see a lot. And I'm also, the short has this lovely structure of seeing kind of both timelines when, you know, he's the more coming of age as a preteen and then later on in his adulthood. Why did you guys decide to set it in both timelines? And kind of see the development, kind of how did you arrive to that decision?
Yeah, we thought that it would be great to show how this had all evolved in his own life, as in the story. You know, it all came from a very young age where this young person really needed to communicate with his father, with a parent. And so we thought, if we show sort of the beginnings of this relationship, I think we could kind of keep exploring it and sort of see where the breakdown happens. Because I think for a lot of adults, you know, when they wonder, and you know, younger people as well, when they think back to where did the fallout between the relationship between myself and somebody like a father or mother or grandmother and aunt happen, you kind of have to sort of peel the onion leaves to get to where that happened. And we thought, if we kind of start and explain to people through flashbacks that it was a really great relationship at the beginning and then kind of see it evolve to where the breakdown happens, I think people will understand that, you know, it wasn't something that just happened overnight. And I think it helps people sort of develop that idea that, again, if it's something you want to inculcate to your kids, it never hurts to start early, you know? So that's kind of also the exploration that we were doing there. And we had our other producers, Edward Enriquez Cohen and Vanessa Perez, kind of look at it as a whole, and we all agreed that was kind of the way to go. So yeah, it worked out for us, I think.
Yeah, and it worked beautifully. And so congratulations again for being here. If people want to keep track of where the project is going, where can they look for it?
Sure. Our project is part of civil rights organizations, Southern Poverty Law Center's Teaching Tolerance program. So if you go to tolerance.org/Bibi, you can find not only the film, but supplemental materials on how to talk about the film to kids and to parents alike. It's been made available to about 1 million teachers in the US. So we're very proud that we're able to kind of go out there and, I'm a former teacher myself, so I feel very fortunate to be able to give back. So yeah, that's the primary place to see it.
Awesome, that's great. Thank you again for joining us, and congratulations. I want to bring Stephanie, the writer of La Gloria, now. Hi, Stephanie.
Hi.
Hi, welcome. So I want to talk about the central relationship in your short, which is between this girl and her grandmother, and why did you decide to make that specific relationship the center of it? Because I don't think it's very rarely that I see a relationship quite like that play out.
Yeah, well, I'll just start by saying that when I was thinking about what this story would be, it was in December 28, or beginning of 2019, and my grandma had just passed away. She's from Guatemala, and I had a very close relationship to her, but I never came out to her. And so part of this was like, how can I speak to that relationship we had, and also maybe do a fantasy of what it would have been like to come out to her, and then blending that with sort of going back in time and looking at that adolescent period when you're first, falling in love with like your sister's best friend or brother's best friend. And so thinking about that I always knew it would have a grandmother at the center. But as we started shaping Gloria, thinking about, her feelings of not belonging in the world, and a lot of people who go through depression feel that, right? And your world kind of collapses into this tiny point of pain where you're also at the center of that pain, and you feel like, you don't belong, you can't exist. So in a way, her relationship with her grandmother puts her in a larger context and gives her this larger sense of belonging in many different ways. One of those being intergenerational, and another one being kind of mystical. And then looking at love through that lens too. There's the love she thinks she wants, with this like cool, kind of asshole. And then there's the love that really touches her, and that's, just totally inextricable from her being, which is her grandmother's love. So those were some of the thoughts.
That's lovely. And one of my favorite aspects of the short is these kind of like dreamlike surreal elements that we see throughout. Why did you give the story that kind of like heightened element, and in what ways do you think it elevates the themes?
Oh, thank you. Something both me and the director Mary really wanted to do was kind of heighten Gloria's inner world. We really wanted to help bring her inner world out. And especially, thinking of themes of depression and stuff like that, there's so much usually hidden that you're experiencing alone. And we wanted to bring more of that out because that's so much a part of what's real anyway. And, if you think about, like, we dream every single night, even if you don't remember it. Like, most of our life, a huge part of our life is in dreams and in these sorts of surreal landscapes. So that was really important. And then just the mystical aspect of connecting her and her grandmother through her dream, through this, like, the shared vision of La Santita, who visits both of them. This idea that, again, going back to like that larger context, that there's something beyond that we can't understand. But yeah, we loved the beauty of it, and it helped illustrate that inner sense.
Yeah, and it did it so well. Thank you so much for being here. If people want to find more about the project or about you, where can they find it?
Yes, hopefully this isn't backwards. I wrote this
no,
Instagram.
It works.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
This is like Gloria has its own Instagram account, and then this is mine, Tarot Obscuro. There, it's an O.
Great.
So you could follow. I try to be consistent, but if it's not on one, it's on the other.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being here again.
Thank you.
Now I'd like to talk with Kathryn, director of For Rosa.
Hi, thanks so much.
Hi, how are you? Welcome.
Thank you.
So happy to have you here. So how did you find this about this story? And I mean, it's just the way I see it. I'd read it and say like, oh, that would make a great sure. But like, how did you find about it, and how did you pick exactly what story to tell it and how to tell it?
Yeah, so I'm from Long Beach, California. But I was living in San Antonio, Texas at the time when I found out about it. And I saw the documentary No Más Bebés, which interviews some of the Madrigal 10 women about their experience. And I was just so appalled and surprised and didn't understand why I had never heard about this part of California history, especially growing up just like 16 miles away from the hospital. And so the documentary is absolutely amazing. And I thought that creating like a fictional narrative version could help honor the women even more and bring more attention and a wider audience to this piece of silenced history.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's it's weird that it's now eerily irrelevant, again, which and how much, I mean, you say you saw this documentary, did you do any further research into it? I was also very taken by the production design and kind of all the costumes. Like, how much did you look back into this history in order to create it today?
Yeah. I was able to read through the transcript of the court case as well. And so that gave a lot of insight into just the strength of the woman and the attorney and how strong she must have been at 26 to be going up against USC and the county hospital. And we our production designer Rachel Garcia, she's absolutely amazing, and she put in like photos of her grandparents in the bedroom, and so there's just like personal aspects to everything. We were fortunate to receive Dia de los Muertos, like production design from this organization called Self-Help Graphics, which started in East LA in the 70s. During that time as well. Oops, oh no, sorry. And then also for we had one more scene. Oh yeah, for the costume design as well. Our costume designer Zoa Lopez, she was able to go to all these like vintage stores and just use historical photos and tried to match clothing and everything, which was amazing. So
yeah, they were I wanted a lot of those outfits, So if people want to hear more, learn more about the project or follow it and see where it's going next, where can they find you?
Yeah, so we are working on a feature version of the film as well, which we're really excited about. And they can find more on For Rosa film on Instagram or on Facebook. So.
Yeah. Well, that's really cool to know that it's there's a feature on the works. I'm very excited.
Thank you.
Hopefully we'll have you back in a few when that is done. Thank you for being here, Kathryn.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Now I'd like Carolina, director of LA Queens, to come. Hi, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
No, of course, we're very, very excited. So this, I'm fascinated by this project. What was the prompt that you gave this women to talk about when you were recording these narrations? And over how long? Like, what was the shooting period that you kind of gathered all of these through?
So I started as soon as we left the first quarantine, the first lockdown, and the first day they were able to go out. I just went out of the street with my camera and I started filming. I filmed 4 portraits like the first 2 weeks, and then to complete the whole film, it took me like 4 months. So there's differences in the portraits, and there's like the time continuing. So first I filmed the images, and then I asked them to record their thoughts and emotions regarding quarantine, what they've been experiencing during this time, and what they've been like. I also wanted to think about like reflecting of the idea of time as like not a productive time, not like making money time, but like we had so much time now, like what do we do with this time? And like any thoughts that came towards that, about that, like and thoughts also about nostalgia or dreams that they were having, and also to talk about like their connection with an outdoor space, and how even going out and feeling the air on your face, and like being able to dance, being able to like smell the roses, do yoga, read a book, whatever it comes out, like that sort of necessity of having even if it's a small balcony, whatever it is, just having like an outdoor space, how that meant during quarantine to you. So that was basically, all the ideas that were going around this film, very intimate and like real thoughts.
Yeah, no, of course. And I'm curious. How many women did you ask?
There were, I think, I don't remember the number, but I think Anissa, Kath, Kels, I think there were 7.
Yeah, a good number. No, don't worry. But I mean, my question with that is, did you find any elements that you find most of them had in common, or anything that struck you that were very different that they were having? Like, were there any patterns that you noticed about the various experiences that these women were having?
I think there were a lot of similarities, like in the way that how everybody was appreciating like quiet time and being able to reflect on things and being able to take on different things that they hadn't had time before. But there were a lot of differences too. Like you can see that, and that's why the name LA Queens in a way is because there are like so many differences in LA and different neighborhoods that you go to, and there's a radical difference in like the architecture or like the social status so I think the idea of going to different neighborhoods was to show that, and at the same time being able to be part of the same city, and also everybody being in the same, going through the same pandemics, through the same situation. Yeah. So it's like, there are differences, but they come together in a way.
Yeah, no, totally. That's one of the things I love most, is how everyone's living it the same situation differently, but it's, there's so much.
Of course, there's like racial injustice. There's like people that had to go to work earlier on time, and other people got to stay longer at home. So there were like a lot of differences, but that everybody was part of the same city and going through the same situation. I thought it was interesting to like see how those like different portraits can work. Yeah,
for sure. Great. If people want to find more about the project or about you, where can they look for it?
So the short film premiered on Film Shortage, which is a platform that for a lot of independent short films. So it's there, and it's also on my website, carolinacortella.com, and I posted a lot of beautiful photos too of the women in my Instagram too, which is Caro Cortella. I didn't make the paper. I hope it's basically my name, carolinacortella.com or carocortella.com.
Awesome.
Well,
great. No, thanks for being here, and congratulations again for anything. And finally, I want to bring in Katie, director of Please Hold.
Hi.
Hi. How are you? Congratulations. Great. So I'm very curious what the initial seed that kind of sparked this whole idea was, and how did it evolve to this very high concept. I loved it so much, but how did it kind of grow?
Yeah, I mean, it came from a lot of things. Like, you know, we live in a time where I think people get the sense that justice, like, you can get justice, but only if you can afford it. And so, you know, the idea came out of a lot of places, as like I think a lot of people's ideas come from. Like, I was reading this article about Seal Beach Detention Center in California, which is a real place where inmates can like pay for upgrades. You can like pay for upgrades and get like a nice room. You can get like HBO, and you know, like that's not really a fair system, but it already exists. And we, you know, we have like we live in a city, LA, where the LAPD just got a new fleet of police drones. And I was reading about a patent where there's like a self-driving police car where you can pay tickets and like without in the back of the police car as you're being arrested, and like you never have to interact with a human. And it's like the future, sounds like the future, but it's all like really happening.
Mhm.
So, you know, not everyone's been arrested or jailed, but everyone has had the experience of being like trapped on the phone with Spirit Airlines trying to figure out like, oh my God, how do I figure out my life? So it was basically like, imagine if Spirit Airlines ran the prison system, and like that's kind of where the idea came from.
Yeah, no, I mean that's a good, because my next question was gonna be, how did you kind of design, or I was gonna say invent, but probably you're telling me you didn't invent anything because most of it is already there.
Yeah.
But kind of how did the design of this kind of, because most of the short takes place inside a cell, how did the design of that space come about?
Yeah, we did a lot of it practically. Like, you know, there are visual effects, like there's a drone, and we had a really great VFX team. Last Pixel, they did like I Am Mother. But like, so we were very lucky to have a really great VFX team, but like we did a lot of it practically. That set was built. And so we had to think about a lot of stuff in advance. And it was important to us that everything felt very, very plausible, that like, you know, it's sci-fi. And sci-fi allows you to, you know, heighten the situation and get a bit of distance, which is nice because, you know, modern social issues, you're discussing something like what happens to average citizens, especially people of color, as they're going through the privatized penal system. And that could easily be depressing if we're not careful. So, you know, doing it through sci-fi allowed us to bring in like the thriller and dark comedy and like Black Mirror-y type of elements without being a little too much. And so, yeah, I mean, the design was like, we did a lot of research into what things really are like. And we wanted to make sure we called it like we didn't want it to feel like a dystopia. We wanted to feel like a normtopia. Like everything feels like something that will really happen, like that would be plausible. So yeah, that was our designing principle.
Yeah, no, and I think it shows in the design of the short. So congratulations again. And if people want to find you or the project, where can they look for it?
Yeah, so our Instagram is Please Hold Short Film, and mine is just my name with an underscore instead of a space between Katie and Dávila. So the easiest way to find us. We're working on a feature now. So yeah.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Katie. And thank you all of you for joining us for this Q&A. It was lovely to get to talk to you about it. And please, you know, keep track of every one of these, because, you know, this is the emerging talent blog. So I'm sure you will, if we go to, you know, this is not the last time we will hear from your project. So congratulations again. And thank you for joining us in the screening, to streaming edition of the Guadalajara Film Festival. Please follow us on our website, figanla.com, and on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter @figanla. I'm Jorge Molina, and thank you for joining us. Thank you, guys.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you.